Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Rip N Riff here on the Rip N Riff YouTube channel. I am at Pucking Thoughts Adam Bernard. The guy that's with me, as always, at Mr. Jared Moore over there on Twitter and in real life as well. Jared, do we have our blind bid requests in? Are we ready for week 3 of Dynasty Football League?
I'm not ready. I've not put the bids in yet. I will take a look. I will take an extensive look at it this evening and get the blind bids in, and more likely than not, I will be awake at 3 a.m. Eastern when they process. So I'll just, whoever I don't get, I'll just cherry pick whatever's left.
I'd be lying if there aren't weeks where I'm out on the West Coast and there's not an alarm set for like 11:58 p.m. just in case I fall asleep in the recliner, that I can, maybe a couple of guys that I'm hoping to scoop up for free versus spending some fab. You got to do it sometime. Got to do it.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, speaking of that, it's week 3 of the NFL season. We'll look back at week 2 in a little bit. We'll go through our pack ripping lineups here in a minute. Got some good stuff there. Going across the sports smorgasbord. Also, starting lineup figure 5 later on. And don't forget, folks, as you see at the bottom of the screen right there, rate, review, subscribe. Like us, comment. Give us something here on YouTube. You can check us out on Twitter/X, Facebook. Also, some content there, all at Rip N Riff. So give us a shout. Follow us. We love to hear from you. But I think without further ado, we can just jump right into the pack ripping lineup. And I've got some baseball and hockey, but you're going all football today.
Yeah, I'm going all football. It's football season. I don't think you can do enough of it this early in the season. And you can see the packs I have there: 1995 Playoff Contender NFL cards and 1999 Black Diamond. You see some of the rookies there, some Hall of Famers, and also some not quite Hall of Famers, like Hall of very good guys like Donovan McNabb. So it should be interesting to see what, if anything, we get out of these retro style packs.
Yeah, I always love any sort of 90s era, especially mid-90s football, because that's like peak when I was collecting. So excited to see what we get out of those packs in the late 90s too. For me, I'll bring it to the diamond. We'll do a little 92 Fleer Ultra baseball. We are looking for a Patrick Mahomes rookie, just not the rookie we were hoping for today out of the football packs. This is his dad out of the baseball one. Also, John Flaherty, Scott Brocious, Juan Guzman, not a strong rookie class there. But we'll close with some hockey. Cole Caulfield, Jeremy Swayman, Bruins saying they are unhappy. They weren't able to get a deal done, but they'll keep talking with the goaltender. Also, Trevor Zegras, Quentin Byfield, William Eklund, and Dawson Mercer rookies. And, of course, those authentic signatures, jerseys, and retro series. So good mix of stuff that we are pulling here today on Rip N Riff. Excited to get to that, but we can't open any packs unless we get some things off our chest first. So why don't we get down to business? It's time to kick things off on Rip N Riff with
my Rip N Rant.
Thanks, Dave. All right, so I feel like, let's have you kick off here, because I feel like you're going to have a little more passion about yours than I'm going to have about mine. So let's lead strong here.
Yeah, so my Rip and Rant is going to be on a certain 4-letter network. And look, I get that we are in the industry of sports media, and it's not necessarily a good idea for people who are looking for more work to badmouth people that are working for these particular networks. But
you don't say.
I will put that aside for a moment. If you happen to watch Monday Night Football this past weekend, you will notice that there was a very distinct, biased, tilted slant towards rooting for the hometown Philadelphia Eagles over the visiting Atlanta Falcons. And look, I'm never one to point out like East Coast bias and whatnot, but it was just so blatantly over the top on Monday night that like it just had to be called out for what it was. And I wasn't the only one who picked up on it. There was a lot of prominent like football media who picked up on it as well. You have Jason Kelsey doing a stupid little dance pregame, and him being in the booth throughout the Monday night, throughout basically the second half of the Monday night game. You have Bill Belichick on the Manning cast, basically crapping all over the Falcons after he got passed over for that job, which was certainly interesting. It was just so blatantly over the top that and look, I get that I'm approaching this as a Giants fan. I'm not an Eagles fan. The Eagles are one of my least favorite franchises and teams in all of sports. but it was just so incredibly satisfying to see that game ultimately end in the way it did. Saquon Barkley drops the pass on 3rd and 3 that would have sealed the game. And then the Falcons march right down the field and score the go-ahead touchdown with 30 seconds left or whatever it was to win the game. The fact they let Kirk Cousins, who has quite a history of spitting the bit in prime time and in the big spot. The fact that the Eagles let him march down the field to score the game-winning touchdown, chef's kiss. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
You know what it is with the Eagles? Like, everybody used to be like, oh, the Cowboys are America's team. Oh, the Packers are the most popular team. The Steelers have a big fan base. Right now, because of the popularity of the Kelsey brothers, the Chiefs and the Eagles are quote-unquote America's teams, and they're going to get those beneficial calls. They're going to get all that love. They're going to get all, and it's annoying. That's what it is. I mean, look at the Chiefs. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has had 18 interceptions overturned due to penalties over the last couple of seasons, which is far and above the number 2 guy on the list. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. Come on now.
Well, the one thing I'll say on that, if you follow Bill Barnwell on Twitter, he actually did a pretty interesting deep dive on that. And basically how that's more of a perceived bias and an actual bias, because a lot of those interceptions are, the guy jumped off sides. Mahomes knew he had a free play. He just threw it up for grabs. And there's a lot of interceptions off that were,
of course,
overturned as a result. But Kelsey doesn't even play for the Eagles anymore. He's retired. Let's just say I'm out on the Kelseys in general. I enjoy the content they do in their podcast. I like them in isolation, but it was just so over the top. And him just doing that stupid little dance on stage in that velour jumpsuit, it just made me want to, it made me want to vomit. You see Adam Schefter doing the sideline hint during Monday Night Countdown, wearing this similar getup to what Kelsey wore during the Super Bowl parade. It was just so over the top. It was ridiculous.
Okay. I mean, listen, I agree. The Kelsey brothers, yes, I agree. I see the clips, they're funny, and all that, but we're getting to the point where it's we're not to say jumping the shark, but it's
oversaturated.
It's oversaturated now. And I get it. Once Travis started dating Taylor Swift, that just kind of kicked that into high gear, because those two guys were already on the rise. They were already very popular, on the social media, podcasting world, all that. And then you throw Taylor Swift into the mix, and now it's just like you can't watch football without there being some sort of Kelsey there. And eventually that'll pass. But yeah, it's a little much right now.
Right. I mean, they're the flavor of the month right now, but they're going to get overexposed really quickly. And I'm not sure that. I know Travis does a lot of commercials, but I have a feeling this is going to be Travis Kelce's final year. His plays declined the last couple of years. He hasn't really gotten off to a great start this year. And if you're Travis Kelce, I mean, what more do you need to do as a football player? Your legacy's secure. You've made your money. You've won your championships. And, oh, by the way, you're dating the most famous woman in the world. And you're head over heels in love with her. So, and I'm not knocking that at all, but, part of me is just why would I keep doing this?
You have nothing to gain and everything to lose.
Yeah, I'm gonna go retire. I'm gonna go on tour with Taylor. We're gonna travel the world. She'll do her shows in Rio de Janeiro and wherever she does her shows from, and it'll be great.
I mean, that's the thing. Travis Kelce doesn't have a litany history of head injuries or anything like that, but all it takes is one. And, look at going to the hockey world. Eric Lindros had a bunch of concussions. His brother Brett got one bad one, and that was it. And now you look at Tua on the field right now. So to me, if I'm Travis, it's what else? I have nothing left to gain by keep playing, unless you want to go for all these tight end records and just lock those up. Yeah, you had enough. I would walk away too, because you know what's going to happen next year. Week 8 against Tennessee, he's going to take a bad headshot, and it's going to be really bad for him. And it's for what? What were you keep going for?
Yep.
Now, I'm going to switch it. I'm going to bring it back to football, but I'm going to start with basketball. I want to give a kudos to the Oklahoma City Thunder organization, because the least you could do after the, kind of shady way the franchise got lifted out of Seattle all those years ago, they're going to give the Sonics, if the Seattle team does come back in expansion in the NBA, they're going to give the Sonics history to that franchise. So the Thunder will, whatever year they move, that'll be the beginning of their franchise history. And that's a nice touch because for fans that have been deprived of a team when they get yanked out of a city, that history means a lot. So
how magnanimous of them. Thank you very much.
And like, that's the thing. Like, yeah, like, it's literally the least you can do, but at least they're doing it. You know, they're saying if it happens, it's theirs. Right. Let's bring it back to the NFL here. The Tennessee Titans moved from Houston many, many years ago. They were the Tennessee Oilers for years. I get that that's their history, but like, man, can you just give it to the Houston Texans? Like, it just, you know, like the Love You Blue history, Warren Moon, all those Oiler teams of the 70s, Earl Campbell, they never won a Super Bowl, but they were perennial playoff teams. Just give them the damn history. I understand it's a division rival, but like, you do nothing with it. You trot out those uniforms once a year, maybe, you know, the old classic Houston Oiler powder blue look, and it's not even your team anymore. You're the Titans. Maybe you need to hold on to that history because the only thing you've got in your history is Kevin Dyson being pulled down on the 1.5 yard line. That's all you got.
and Jeff Fisher being Mr. 7 and 9. Yes.
Yes. Like, so maybe that's why you don't want to give it up. But man, like, you know, like we said, like, you know, so magnanimous for Oklahoma City to give it to Seattle, but it's the right thing to do. You can do the right thing too. And like, it would go over big. You know, the Texans would absolutely, they'd wear the Oilers jerseys multiple times a year, or they would change the Texan colors to that a little bit. I don't know, but just give them their history back. Take a page out of the Oklahoma City Thunder book.
Do you think that's the reason they're not doing it? Just because they're the division rivals, are doing it out of spite?
I mean, sometimes owners can be petty, you know, like maybe they didn't like the way the situation ended in Houston and they hold a grudge all those years. And that's it. You got to understand, sometimes you got rich people who know what they're doing with their money. Sometimes you got rich people that are spoiled little brats that love to pull shit like that. And I think that's where the latter falls.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to add. And although I will say one thing, just to go back to basketball for a second, how about shout out to the legendary Woj announcing his retirement? He's going to be the GM at St. Bonaventure. NBA, he is the GOAT of NBA insiders, and obviously that is a very difficult job for anybody to do, and that is a lot of money to walk away from. And the fact that like he knows when to step out on his own terms and take what I would imagine is a much far easier job where he'll be able to collect NIL money at St. Bonnie's. Like, shout out to Woj, man. You are a master of your craft, sir, and I have nothing but respect for you.
It's the perfect job because it's not a high enough profile college where it's like, no, this is going to be just as stressful as what you were doing. It's low. It's like a mid-tier college. You know, we've all heard of St. Bonaventures. You know, so like, good for him. He's deserved that. And I might go out and say, in terms of longevity in their sport, I would probably put him as one of the GOAT insiders, period, across the board. Like him, you know, Elliot Friedman's kind of that guy in the NHL now, but it was Bob McKenzie before that. Like, I don't know if there was a better, you know, going way back in the day, there was like Peter Vesey from the New York Post back when we were kids, but like, you know, I don't know if there's an insider that's been good as him for as long as him.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing it for so long, and I guess Schefter, would be on that level as well, just because he's been doing it for as long as he's been doing it now. But that is not an easy job. You're working your contacts all the time. You're getting texts and phone calls at all hours of the day. There's really no days off. There's no holidays, and you're always on. There's always that level of stress where you have to get like that breaking news story about, you know, the 10th guy in the Chicago Bulls who signs a $40 million contract. You got to get that 10 seconds before Shams and some of the other guys do. And I'm sure at some point, like in the last couple of years, when he was thinking about probably stepping away, he was just like, I don't want to do this shit anymore.
Yeah.
Probably like lying awake at night. It's just like, I need an out. I got to find something else to do. And like, he's made plenty of money doing what he's been doing for ESPN. And he announced his retirement from being an insider, and shout out to the King.
And just we mentioned the few sports. Let's throw out some baseball all-timers. Buster Olney, Tim Kirkjian, Peter Gammons would also, I think, be in that class as well in terms of the baseball guys. So don't want to leave them hanging.
The modern guy, but yes, 100%.
Don't want to leave those guys hanging. So there we go. We got some stuff off our chest. We feel a little bit better, and we can go into pack ripping with a much clearer head, I think, now. So we want to talk some football. Why don't you kick us off with what do we got there? The 99 Upper Deck Black Diamond?
Yeah, we'll do the Black Diamonds first. If you don't mind pulling up the East Coast cam for me. Get that nice ripping sound on camera. And I love the look of these cards. There's not a lot of cards in these packs, by the way. So I'm going to go through all these packs pretty quickly. Like, this pack only has 5 cards. It's pretty light. or maybe
Okay.
6
Hopefully,
cards.
quality versus quantity here.
Yep, and they are sticking together a little bit, which I guess is to be expected with cards that are this old. But I love the look of these cards. It almost has like a Panini Prism, like 10 years before Panini Prisms were a thing. And like you'll see that with this very first one, Trent Green.
Oh, wow.
Long time NFL quarterback here with the St. Louis Rams.
Trent Green is supposed to be the starting quarterback for the Rams that year. Gets hurt in I believe Rodney Harrison gives him a dirty shot and opens the door for Kurt Warner and the greatest show on turf.
Yep, and the rest is history.
It's a good looking card though. I like that. It's like in the late 90s is when they really started to like get like creative and look more modern. I guess the technology and card printing had gotten better, but yeah, that's a sharp looking card top to bottom.
Yeah, I gotta get some more of these packs. I love these cards. But we go right from that to another quarterback here, Charlie Batch, longtime quarterback here with the Lions, but obviously was a backup with the Steelers for many years as well, behind Big Ben.
Pride of Eastern Michigan.
Yep, Jermaine Lewis, Super Bowl hero for the Baltimore Ravens, ran the kickoff back for a touchdown in Super Bowl 35, and effectively ruined. That night for me as a Giants fan, but
Didn't he return one for a touchdown after the Giants had finally scored two? Like it looked like the Giants were getting back in, and then
100%. Like the Giants were never winning that game, but I think it was Ron Dixon who ran that kickoff back for the Giants. And it's like, yeah, they had a little bit of life, and then no, Jermaine Lewis just ran the next kickoff back, and completely just ended that right there. And that also bums me out with the NFL kickoff rules. Like that was pretty cool. Like in the Super Bowl that you had 2 back off kickoff returns for touchdowns. You're never going to see that again. Not with these new stupid kickoff rules that I'm not convinced are actually doing anything to keep the players safe. So,
and also just to go back to a conversation we had about special teamers in the Hall of Fame a few weeks ago. Now you're never like there's not going to be any but like return specialists anymore. Like it's going to be like that era is gone.
Yep. All right, we'll go through this next couple pretty quickly. Skip Hicks, I don't really remember him. Running back with the Washington Redskins.
Kind of remember the name, but
well, you'll remember this name. Long-time, really good receiver, Rod Smith, the Denver Broncos.
Let's pull up that resume right there, because Rod Smith was like just Mr. Reliable, like just top receiver option for many years. Let's see here. He had how many 1,000-yard seasons? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000-yard seasons, including a 1,600-yard season. Yeah, pretty good there.
Yep. And we'll go from pretty good to one of the all-time greats to finish up this pack. How about nice Randy Moss card right there.
I mean, that makes the pack worth it alone right there. That is a good-looking Randy Moss card.
Yeah, that is a great-looking card. And I love the back of it as well because it has this individual stats for every week for the 98 season right there.
The hologram's cool like that. You're talking about like a Panini look. That's pretty good right there.
Right.
All right.
And my favorite one right here, week 13, if you remember, that was that Thanksgiving Day game. 3 receptions, 163 yards, 3 touchdowns. Every so often on football on Twitter, you'll see someone post that stat line of Randy Moss from that Thanksgiving Day game. And that stat line just cracks me up every time I see it. 3 receptions, 163 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching that game in my grandmother's basement. That was that was just he needed to have a coming out party, and that certainly was the stage to do it. The Thanksgiving game against the Cowboys, all of America's watching. That's pretty good. All right, on to the next football pack. So what do we got here? 95 playoff contenders.
Yeah, I got 2 packs of these, and we'll go through these pretty quick because again, it's only 6 cards per pack. So, very curious to see the look of these cards, and get that nice ripping sound there, and. These cards are also sticking together, but I like the look of these cards as well. And you certainly have some, just take a look at this card right here.
So I'll admit I was on toywiz.com last night looking to buy some packs, and I saw the playoff contender pack that you were doing, so I pulled up what they looked like on the screen, and yeah, I mean, those are just, especially for 1995, that's a good looking card.
Yeah, these are good looking cards. And then, I mean, you got legends right here. Jerry Rice, absolute legend. John Elway, legend. Jeff Hostetler, well, he won a Super Bowl, so and he won it for the Giants, so legend as far as I'm concerned.
We'll call it legendary backup. As far as backup quarterbacks concerned, like Haas is up there.
Yep. And another legend's probably a little strong, but he did play in the league forever. Vinny Testaverde, legend.
For the fact that like he played for all these bad teams, yeah, I would say, yeah, he's a low key legend in his own right. Let's go back to Hostetler for a minute because I was having a conversation with my buddy the other day. How like the era of the backup quarterback is kind of gone. You know what I mean? Like Joe Flacco is a top 10 backup quarterback in this league right now, maybe even top 5.
He's pushing 40. Yeah.
Like you go back, like Jeff Hostetler was a perfect example of like, Frank Reich. That's another one. Like these guys they were career-long backups and, they would come in the game. They could play a few games, no problem. Like, I just feel like that's so rare now. Like I think Colt McCoy is like one of the last of that dying breed.
There's just not enough quality quarterbacks to go around. You're seeing that with the starters, and that's even less so with the backups, because if the backups were good enough to start, they'd be starting somewhere. And like right now, you have guys like Gardner Minshew, and I guess Jimmy Garoppolo is kind of still in that tier where like, they're probably quality backups more so than like starting quarterbacks that you'd want to rely on from week to week. But I mean, it's just tough to find like a quality backup quarterback, and especially with how much turnover there is in the league, with head coaches and whatnot. A lot of these, they fire the old coaching staff, they bring the new coaching staff in. They usually one of the first areas of the roster they usually look to clean house is usually the quarterback position if they don't have one.
I mean, one of the guys we pulled before that I'm looking on this like list of top backup quarterbacks of all time, Charlie Batch on that list, and that makes sense too.
Yeah, so
you don't see those. And Eric Anderson was a good one.
Yep, and we finished this pack with a rookie card, Chris Sanders.
He was good for a little while for the Oilers. He was like a little speedy receiver.
Yep, so pretty solid pack there. I would say with some of the names that we pulled out of that one. Let's see what we get out of the second pack that I have, the second and final pack.
So it looks like Randy Moss is your leader in the clubhouse for pull of the day, although that Rice and Elway card there is pretty cool too.
Yeah, 100%. So let me go right to this one. I'm just going to separate the cards real quick since
little bricking.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just what you deal with cards this old. You deal with a lot of, the cards sticking together. So
it's a double-edged sword of all that glossy finish from back in the day.
Yep. So, I would say this pack's not quite as legendary as the other one. Vincent Brisby, Jack Harris, Pete Metalars. Yep.
Brisby was like Drew Bledsoe's like guy for a little while there in New England. I remember that, but
yep. Jim Everett.
Very good starting quarterback for many years, although we all know him for the Jim Rome incident, but Jim had it coming. But
which we don't need to keep bringing up on this show. Honestly, this is the best card of this pack. We got 2 rookie cards to finish up. We got Sherman Williams from the Cowboys, which is probably less prevalent of the 2 rookies, but here, and I know that this player is near and dear to your heart. One of the all-time great Jets, Curtis Martin.
That's a good-looking rookie right there. Yes, my favorite Jet of all time. Yeah, I would say so. But my favorite Jet of all time, Curtis Martin.
Do you have any Curtis Martin rookie stuff, considering he played for the Patriots as a rookie?
So interesting you asked that, because I go back and forth with that. I have a couple, but because it's a Patriots card, like the way you like one, like I have Barry Sanders rookie cards. Of course I do. I do like to have a couple, but I don't go nuts looking for them because I don't need any more Patriots in my life, even though that era seems to be behind us a little bit, even though they're out to a pretty good start this season. But yeah, I don't need more Patriots in my life.
Well, that's it. That's all I got today, my friend.
Well, there we go. So East Coast Rip Cam going away, West Coast Rip Cam coming up on the screen. We've done some football. Let's do a little baseball now because we're coming down the stretch run here in the playoffs. Lots of interesting races. I will be seeing the Yankees this Sunday in their last ever game in Oakland, so looking forward to that. That'll be nice.
Oh yeah, I meant to ask if you were going. So good for you to put that out there. I'm sure you and the other 10,000 people that'll be going will be thrilled.
I think it's a Sunday game, Yankees, and now we're in the last homestand. So I think you're going to start seeing a more full building than, like April against the Rays or whatever. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But we'll see how long Annabelle lasts because she's coming too. But I hope to make it to the end. Let's start with this 90.
Just get her some ice cream. She'll be fine.
She wants to meet Stomper too, the mascot. So I got to see if I could track him down. Let's see what we got here. So when we go to the Sharks game, she wants to meet Sharky. She's big on mascots for whatever reason. We got Kevin McReynolds here to start. Picture with the Royals, of course, played with the Mets as well. Little known fact about Kevin McReynolds: my first ever baseball game was almost a no hitter by Jose Rijo. Kevin McReynolds, one of the two guys to get a hit for the Mets that day. Tim Tuffle. Speaking of a former Met there, we'll keep that trend going. They're pictured with the Padres. Do we think the Mets are a playoff team, or are they going to break their fans' hearts yet again?
I think they've done enough here where they're probably going to get in. They're taking care of business down the stretch just like they need to. I mean, I know they have a series left against the Phillies at home coming up here, but they took care of business for the most part in Philly. And I think they have one more series against the Braves, which is probably going to determine their fate. Let me pull up their schedule real quick here while you pull up the next card.
I'm going to go through these cards because this is a not bueno pack. We got Mark Leonard here pictured with the Giants at Old Candlestick Park there.
All right, yeah. So and I said the Mets took care of business. If by take care of business you mean drop 2 out of 3 to the Phillies, then yeah, they took care of business. All right, but they took the two for they took. I can't speak. They took the first 2 from the Washington Nationals. They have them one more time today. Then they got a 4-game set against the Phillies, and then their final road trip of the year: 3 in Atlanta, 3 in Milwaukee. So the Mets will certainly earn it if they get there, but I believe they're 2 up on the Braves for that last wild card spot, and I think they're actually tied with Arizona. I'm going to pull up the wild card standings here.
I'll put Pete Shurik baseball card up on the screen while we're talking Mets. Former failed left-handed reliever from the early to mid-90s for them.
Yeah, so I think the Mets are going to get in. They are the right combination of eye test, analytics, vibes. Just everything's been coming up Millhouse for him since the whole Grimace thing started earlier this year.
Well, that's probably one of my favorite Simpson scenes, by the way, is the everything's coming up Millhouse. It's just classic Millhouse. We got Phil Plantier here with the Red Sox. Yeah, this pack stinks. Greg Olson with the Orioles. Greg Gagne, who was a good infielder with the Twins, was on that 91 championship team that they beat the Braves in 7. What else we got here? We speaking of the Athletics, we got a Randy Reddy Athletics card there still at the Coliseum. Looks exactly the same. Floyd Bannister from the Texas Rangers. Talked about them on last week's Rip N Riff. Look out for them next year. Let's see here. Omar Vizquel. Don't need to talk about him. Good infielder, but we'll leave it at that. We got Todd Benzinger from the LA Dodgers. Yeah, this pack is awful. Rod Nichols from Cleveland. We close with 2 cards here. One is a Yankee, Steve Howe, who I believe was arrested, wasn't he?
I believe so. I'll pull that up while you're.
I'm gonna say it was cocaine related. I don't. Let's see here. Steve Howe, Yankees.
Cocaine charges, yes. So he certainly enjoyed the nose candy, apparently, allegedly.
And Pascual Perez, who was on the team around the time, also got was also arrested for similar things. So maybe they were doing lines in the bullpen together. Who knows? And we close the pack. We talk about Yankees pitchers, a big time lefty for them. David Wells here, pictured with the Blue Jays. I actually like that card. That's a cool card.
That looks nothing like David Wells. I mean, I know this is 92, and I'm used to seeing David Wells, 98, 99. He's got the mustache, a little bit heavier. I mean, he's certainly has a little bit of weight there, a little bit of girth, but that does not really look like David Wells to me.
Like that meme, like pre-alcohol, post-alcohol, like that's the pre-alcohol one for David Wells right there, and then then it's the Babe Ruth hat, the jersey, whatever he wore, and he got in trouble. But yeah, David Wells, all-time Yankee.
I like David Wells. David Wells is a vibes guy.
David, yeah, like listen, the era of a guy coming into a clubhouse, completely hungover, and then going out and throwing a perfect game. That's never going to happen again. You're never going to hear that. No. He was cut from a different cloth.
Yeah, him and Doc Ellis allegedly throwing a no-hitter on LSD.
Yeah, I mean, God, that would be a cool experience. If you could go back in time and experience things that have happened via virtual reality, that's the one. The LSD, a no-hitter. Perfect. There you go. All right, so there's David Wells. It's in the mix for pull of the day, but it's not going to trump the Randy Moss. Now we're going to go to some 2021, 2022 Upper Deck SP. Got a few packs of these.
Yeah, hopefully you do pull that Swayman card. That'll be interesting. It's always a good sign when Don Sweeney's like, yeah, well, we hope he's here before the December 1st deadline. It's like, oh, good. That tells me you're nowhere close to a deal.
Yeah, sounds like Eunice Corpusalo might be getting a little bit of a workload early on, depending upon how things go. So there we go. There's the pack, and we open up with a Ranger there. You see my marker. Here's Artemi Panarin, who I think will have another big year, but I don't know if he can repeat the numbers he put up last year.
I mean, never say never. I mean, he is. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but he's certainly a Hall of Fame talent. And I never bet against talent, but 120 points in 82 games seems very unlikely that he would replicate that. But even if he doesn't, 100 points in 82 games is certainly within the realm of possibility, as I noticed my internet's slowing down a little bit there. So hopefully it settles in. So, yeah, we'll see what kind of year he has.
Panarin's still going on the back end of first round, early in the second round of most fantasy hockey drafts. So keep that in mind. Definitely a top left winger out there. We stay in New York. There's Josh Bailey, pictured with the Islanders. Speaking of strong left wings, a guy who just takes a licking and keeps on ticking, Brad Marchand.
Takes a licking and also gives a licking.
Yes, good call. Good call. I forgot about that incident. Now, we have an interesting way to close the first of these 4 or 5 card packs here. So we have a Drake Batherson authentic profiles there. Good looking card. But then literally right behind it, a numbered version of it, 5 of 25 there for Drake Batherson. So,
if you didn't have enough Drake Batherson in your collection, this pack certainly made sure that you were well covered there.
A guy that I would consider late, in the mid to late rounds, if you need a winger that gets you hits and stuff like that, he will hopefully have a little bit of a better year than last year. But Ottawa stinks. So
I'm not buying Ottawa or Buffalo or any of those teams in the Atlantic taking that next step. I'm just not. I need to see it to believe it. And I know we just talked about Boston and them, potentially not having Swayman for a decent chunk of the season. I'll believe Boston's not a playoff team when I see it.
All right, we got this is actually a pretty good mix here of cards here. Let's start with Sebastian Aho, Hurricanes top line center. With Carolina, I think there's, not to say they'll take a step back, but I don't think they're as strong as last year, but I think they're still a pretty good team.
I do think they have the structure in place where they should be fine. I mean, they have a lot of good players. They're a forecheck heavy team. I do think they took a little bit of a step back on the blue line, which is a concern. And I don't love Freddie Anderson in net. I kind of hope that Kachechov's, emerges to be the guy for them. But
I think that's the plan because Anderson can't stay healthy.
Yeah, he can't. And he's productive when he is healthy, but it's just when he can't stay healthy, it's tough to count on a guy like that. And Netchus is an interesting guy because he doesn't really want to be there long term. So, what's going to ultimately happen with that situation? So, I would guess he plays out this year, and they probably trade him in the summer. Would be my guess, but I honestly have no idea.
He's going to get ample opportunity, though, on that right side in the top six. I know Seth Jarvis is probably going to be on the top line, but they're definitely going to lean on Nate just for scoring because there's not a ton of scorers on that team right now. Like you said, more of a grinding team there. So we had a pair of Hurricanes. Now we got a pair of Lightning. And let's face it, two very important players to the franchise here, especially this season. You got Braden Point, their top line center, and Victor Hedman anchoring that blue line.
And Victor Hedman, the newly named captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning, with Steven Stamkos departing in free agency. So, it'll be interesting to see what the Lightning are this year. Obviously, they add Gensel. That's a huge get for him, but we keep getting further and further away from those championship years, and losing Stamkos is just such a big loss. A lifetime Lightning player there who's a big part of what they were as a championship team. And this is a team that last year they needed Nikita Kucherov to go absolutely bonkers and post like 140 points just for him to finish with like 97 points. Now, I do think Vasilevsky will be better, and he was not very good last year, and they're certainly going to need him to be better, but Tampa would be the one team in that Atlantic I would be targeting for someone trying to take their spot. It's just like I just said a few moments ago. I don't trust, Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit. I don't trust those teams enough to actually take it from them.
The one thing I'll say about Vasilevsky, missed the first 6 weeks or so with injury and had to play his way back into form a little bit. So hopefully he hits the ground running this year and it will be a little better. We got Logan Thompson, SP Rookie Authentics, pictured with the Golden Knights there. Now he's going to form a goaltending duo with Charlie Lindgren in Washington.
Sneaky good pickup for the Caps. I mean, I know your co-host Chris isn't high on the Caps. I'm not going to say I'm high on the Caps, but I feel like the Caps made a bunch of interesting moves in the sense of trying to win now this offseason. And they were technically a playoff team last year, even though they weren't any good.
I think the Capitals, they could be a wild card team this year. Charlie Lindgren played well, but I do think it was smart to, hey, this is one season of a sample size. Let's make sure we have another guy we can play if Lindgren takes a little bit of a step back this year. So should be a good goaltending tandem. The fact that they added Jacob Chikrin on the blue line, he still put up decent numbers on that Arizona/Utah team last year. So I think that's a nice addition there. And maybe Pierre-Luc Dubois finally puts it together somehow in Washington. Maybe this is his last stop. I don't think it happens, but
I'm not going to count on that. No, I mean, he's the biggest stiff in the league. But I feel like we say this every time Pierre-Luc Dubois winds up on a new team. Like we said this last year with if he can't get it together in Los Angeles with like Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty in the room, and now we're saying this a year later. It's like if Pierre-Luc Dubois can't put it together with Spencer Carberry as the head coach and Ovechkin and some of these, we just gotta call it is what it is. He's a stiff.
What I'll give him a piece of advice, and I'm just a Thursday night rec league hockey player, but if you're on the same line with Alex Ovechkin, just pass the puck to him when he's got some space. Do that, and you'll revive your career real quick.
I would settle for how about forechecking every once in a while? How about actually giving a shit on the shift?
It's a 200-foot rink. You have to play all 200 feet. It's not like 100 or 150 you play. No, you got to play all 200.
Especially when playing center.
Yes, yeah, kind of important as a center. So it's got 2 packs to go here. We start off with Anders Lee with the Islanders there. Next up here, we've got a Chris Letang card here. I thought it was stuck, but it's not. It's just a thick card. He's kind of lost his role a little bit with Carlson, with the part of the big three there in Pittsburgh with Crosby and Malkin. It'll be interesting to see how they handle their number retirements when their time comes.
And Pittsburgh just gave the legacy contract to Sidney Crosby. I don't want maybe legacy contract's a little strong because Sidney Crosby's still really good. I kind of hate the fact that Sidney Crosby's still taking like $8.7 million cap hits and giving the Penguins a discount. And I know people say, "Oh, it's a great thing for Crosby to do that for the Penguins so they can build a contender around them." But when the Penguins are turning around, they're giving that money to Ryan Graves, who, skates like he has cinder blocks in his skates. Like it's not necessarily what you want to see there.
I think Crosby has earned it to, like, if that's what he wants to do and he doesn't want, he feels like he's won enough. I mean, it's kind of, cheeky that they made it an $8.7 million cap hit. I mean, he could have easily gone out and got over 10 on the open market, but he wants to play for and stay for a whole career. That's it. Although I will say, I think this is it. I don't think there's another contract after this. I think he's walking away. He strikes me as the type of guy we're not going to watch him deteriorate before our eyes. He's going to walk out on as high a note as he can. I think he had over 90 points last year, so there's no reason to, a guy like Crosby, his decline will be to like 65, 70 points, and he'll be like, all right, I'm washed. I'm done. That'll be his level of, I can't play at a high level anymore.
Yeah, I mean, well, we have 3 more years of Sidney Crosby under contract. So, I mean, I guess as hockey fans, we should enjoy it while he's here because he's one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, absolutely is. Even though he came at the expense of, in the same division that we are, our teams are respectively. We've got 2 rookie SP authentics to close here. One is Taylor Radish of the Tampa Bay Lightning. We do have a rookie authentics jersey card here, just not necessarily the guy we would want to pull. Brandon Duhaime of the Minnesota Wild, now with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, Brandon Duhaime, your classic bottom of the lineup shit stir type of player. Every good hockey team needs a guy like that. So, yeah, that's Brandon Duhaime in a nutshell.
Let's see what we get out of this last pack here. We got a good mix here. Okay, let's start with Cal Peterson with the Kings. Haven't heard from him in a while. Don't anticipate we'll hear from him again anytime soon. It's a Darcy.
He's got 1 more year left under contract with the Flyers, and I would guess that he probably spends the entire year in Lehigh Valley, and at that point is probably a career AHLer.
The goalie who does have a lot to play for this year is Mr. UC Saros in Nashville. Got that new contract, upgraded team. We'll see how Nashville does in the Central Division this year.
Yeah, and they cleared the decks behind him with the Askarov trade to the Sharks as well. So this will be Saros' net for the next 8 years. So
and Scott Wedgwood as the backup for now.
Yeah, and Wedgwood's a quality backup. So.
But yeah, let's wrap this. We got 3 cards to go in this pack here before we get to the figure 5. We got Lucas Raymond, fresh off his contract with the Detroit Red Wings, a guy they're going to count on to be a part of their core for the next 7-8 years.
I was surprised that the number was as big as it was for him, and then I didn't realize he had 74 points last year. So I was like, all right, yeah, this is a player who is on the rise. I actually thought he had kind of plateaued a little bit, but to be fair, I'm not kind of paying close attention to the Detroit Red Wings. So credit to him for getting his money, and we'll see how that impacts the rest of the RFA forward market, because you still have guys like Dawson Mercer unsigned, and I feel like there's someone else who's pretty notable in terms of RFA forward who I'm not thinking of at the moment.
But Lucas Raymond, they're not necessarily a guy in a banger league, but in terms of just regular fantasy, he's on the rise. He should produce a little more this year. He's going to be counted on in Detroit, that's for sure. There's not a lot in that top 6. I know they have Kane. I know they have Tarasenko, but Raymond's going to be on that top line there, and they're going to expect him to produce along with DeBrincat and Larkin. Let's see here. We got 2 Edmonton Oilers to close the pack, and you can't close the pack much stronger, or the day of ripping much stronger. We got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and then the man himself, Connor McDavid.
Yeah, and the Oilers are going to be a team that's going to be a threat to win the Stanley Cup once again this season. Obviously, they have some notable losses. They lost Broberg and Holloway to the Blues with the offer sheets, and Evander Kane's not going to start the year with the team because he's undergoing surgery. The team just announced that. But, I mean, that's as deep a team as anybody in the West. They've 2 top 5 players in McDavid and Draisaitl, and it seems like they have everything else that they kind of need right now. They probably need 1 more defenseman, just because Darnell Nurse makes a ton of money, but Darnell Nurse is not very good. Like, they really need 1 more, like, ideally a top pairing defenseman, but I would settle for top 4.
I don't know if they can make that happen, but
I don't know if they can either. But just in terms of the cap and in terms of, the right fit. And Ekholm's still really good, but I don't know how many more years you're going to have a quality Ekholm. And obviously, I can't think of his name. The young player they have, Bouchard. Yeah, Bouchard's going to be a top defenseman in the league. So, and it's going to be interesting because he's up for a contract at the end of next year, and so is McDavid. So I understand why they let Broberg and they let Holloway go, but Edmonton's going to have to make some tough decisions here because they kind of box themselves in with the cap. So we'll see what ultimately happens there. I'm not saying they're going to let McDavid walk because that's just foolishness, but. They're probably going to have to try to trade away some of their depth to make the numbers work. So that might mean, moving on from Adam Henrique or Victor Arvidsson or maybe even a long time Oiler like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at some point just to find a way to make the money work.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Oilers are what they are at forward. I think they're fine there. They obviously have the two top lines. Draisaitl will be flanked by Skinner and Arvidsson. They have a decent bottom six there, a grinded out bottom six. Yeah, Darnell Nurse is certainly overpaid. He still does some things, but I mean, Bouchard, Ekholm, Nurse are your top three defensemen. Then you got Ty Emberson, who they got in the Cody Ceci trade with San Jose. Troy Stetcher is what he is. Brett Kulak is what he is. So that top pairing of Ekholm and Bouchard is going to be playing a ton this year, unless they figure out a way to get another defenseman in there.
They're going to add a defenseman at the deadline. I don't know what assets they have. I'm going to pull up their Puckpedia page right now. I'm going to guess they probably have a first-round pick to burn, and they could certainly make that happen. And I don't even know what defensemen are available. They don't have their first this year, but they have their first next year. So, I would imagine they'll be in on whoever the big defenseman will be at the deadline this year at 50% retained, and they might have to pay another pick to get it down to 75% retained, but I think the Oilers are very much going to be in the market for one more top four defenseman if they can find a way to make it work.
See what happens with Edmonton this year, but there we go. So we had baseball, hockey, some great football stuff. Now it's time to get to poll of the day. My candidates here, nothing strong there. We got that Brandon Duhaime jersey card. I do like the fact that it's the red portion of the jersey. Connor McDavid base card. We got the Drake Batherson 5 of 25 authentic profiles there, and the David Wells base card. But I think it's going to have to go to that Randy Moss card there.
Yeah, it's got to be Randy Moss. It's just a gorgeous card. Certainly way ahead of its time. And bring the camera a little closer so you can kind of see that there. Yeah, that's just a absolutely gorgeous card. That will go in a penny sleeve for sure.
That's top loader worthy right there. We'll have to look that one up later. So there we go. Randy Moss is going to take our pull of the day here out of all those packs you see that we ripped on the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Randy Moss taking it this week. Good for him. Now it's time to get to the starting lineup figure 5. We wrap every episode of Rip N Riff with a guessing game. Jared gets it right. I get to take it out of the box. If not, goes back in the box in the garage for a later date. So without further ado, I think it's time to get the starting lineup figure 5 bed going here.
This isn't this isn't one of my 5 questions, but what sport are we doing? I don't think you ever said
baseball. I'm sorry.
If you said it, I totally missed it. All right, so we're doing baseball.
More question. No, I'm kidding.
Is this player in the Baseball Hall of Fame?
This player is not in the Hall of Fame.
Is this player not in the Baseball Hall of Fame because of alleged ties to performance-enhancing drugs?
There are some that would make that connection, yes.
Okay.
But there are many that would make that connection, actually.
Okay. Did this player win an MVP?
He never won an MVP. I'm a little surprised to see that, actually.
Ooh, all right, interesting. Actually, eliminate some big names. Does this player have 500 career home runs or more?
Yeah, he sure does.
I certainly have a lean here. Did this player make a cameo on The Simpsons where he asked, "Do you want to know the horrifying truth, or do you want to see me sock a few dingers?"
Yeah, that's a pretty specific question, but yes, he did.
Is it Mark McGuire?
It sure is. There we go. We got a 1988 Mark McGuire right there. Good job, Jared. I mean, I mentioned the A's earlier, going to the last home game this Sunday. We're going to do an Oakland starting lineup studio audience next week, so needed to get this guy out of the box. So it's good sleuth work, as they used to say on Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
As the doggy would say, that's a good job out of you.
You've been on fire this season.
I would have no idea what I'm talking about with the Simpsons reference.
I would have thrown him off. Like, huh? What are you talking about? So we always like to have the pose match the card. Not quite the case here. Let me get my candidates out of the way for the starting lineup studio audience there, or the poll of the day. So there you see the Mark McGuire card, the old starting. That's a typical starting lineup card right there. And he's taking a cut there. Here he's about to take a swing. There we go. Got the Oakland on that. I've been trying to buy the ones that have Oakland written on it versus Athletics, because I feel like they'll be even more of a collector item someday. There's McGuire on the back, about to take his cut. There he is swinging in the picture. And then, yeah, pretty good for a 1988 starting lineup. Doesn't really look a whole lot like him, but none of those did.
1988. Good Lord.
What's cool about, and I threw it across the room, but I still have it here. It actually gives you the checklist of all the ones for all the teams that year. You want to hear who they made for the Yankees?
Sure.
We got Ricky Henderson, Don Mattingly, Dave Winfield, Willie Randolph, and Dave Righetti.
I mean, that's probably a who's who of who were the prominent players on the New York Yankees in that particular year.
Yeah.
Also, the Yankees were not very good that year.
They were not. The Mets were loaded, though. They had Strawberry, Hernandez, Carter, Gooden, Dykstra, McReynolds, and Howard Johnson. We pulled the Kevin McReynolds card earlier.
All right, I've been meaning to ask you this, because this has been a thing with the Yankees for quite some time. So last week or whenever it was, the Yankees extended their streak of consecutive quote-unquote winning seasons where they finished above 500.
Okay.
Is that an impressive stat?
In baseball, I'll say yes, because I feel like when a baseball team is bad, it's bad. You don't get a lot of teams hovering 500. There's usually a few teams that hover around 500, and then it's either clearly above it or clearly below it. So I'll say yes. I mean, to me, that's not as impressive in hockey because of the way the point system works. Basketball, not as much.
And football, there's just less games.
So I would say baseball's probably the most impressive sport to have that kind of run of being over 500.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. And no, I just bring it up because we've seen some really bad Yankee teams going back to the late 80s, early 90s, and then we've seen some Yankee teams that I would say were pretty bad. The Yankees last year winning 82 games, that was a bad baseball team. But they still won 82 games, and they still technically had a quote-unquote winning season, even though the team was, dog shit, for lack of a better term. So, I don't know. I just want to kind of get somebody else's opinion on that, because something I've been thinking about for a bit.
I would say for baseball, it's impressive, especially for that, And listen, it's the Yankees, so there's kind of an expectation that you should always be, competing like that. The Yankees should never go back to when I started rooting in the early 90s when it was them in Baltimore battling to stay out of last place in the AL East. I don't think they'll ever go back to that for more than a season or two. But hey, over 500 is over pretty good. Now, what's the starting lineup studio audience for this week? We pulled Mario Lemieux out last week. So I decided to go with, people that identify really with one city, icons of one city. You think Derek Jeter, you're going to think New York. You think Mario Lemieux, you think Pittsburgh. John Elway, even if you never saw him play football in Denver, he's got all those car dealerships. And I mean, yes, I know Hakeem Olajuwon. played for the Raptors, but let's be real. He went to the University of Houston, and he's a Houston Rocket. So, like, to me, he's a Houston guy right there.
I like that. I like that theme. And I'm sure you got plenty of starting lineups there where you could have certainly added more guys to the mix. You certainly could have done Barry Sanders, Detroit. You certainly could have done
Allen Iverson, Philadelphia.
Exactly. So
we'll bring that theme back. Don't worry. We'll bring that back. But that does it for this edition of Rip N Riff here. Now, we always got to get some house cleaning taken care of here. Don't forget, new episode of Total Hockey Now coming out on Thursday. We'll be live, be our 9th mock draft of the year, and we'll be ranking our top 10 fantasy right wings for banger leagues. And so make sure you check that out. Total Hockey Now on all the platforms we talked about. Jared's got hockey coverage coming out all the time on allaboutthejersey.com at AAT Jersey blog there. That will certainly be an exciting team to follow. And, of course, Jared Moore Poker at Jared Moore Poker on YouTube. What do we got coming up there?
More of my below average play, but top-notch production.
I mean, and that's what we expect, and that's what we've come to know and love out of that. So, just, another day at the office for Jared there. But that'll do it for today's Rip and Riff. We'll be back with you next Wednesday, all new episode. Sure, we'll be talking football. I know I got some football packs lined up. Jared's going to have some packs. We're going to have some fun. We'll talk some Oakland as they wrap up their last homestand. But for at Mr. Jared Moore, I am at Talking Thoughts Adam Bernard. Back with you with an all new episode of Rip and Riff next week here on the Rip and Riff YouTube channel.